I'm going to talk about how to write a critical reflection. In this presentation, I will explore in brief what is a critical reflection, why do we critically reflect, and I'll spend more time talking about how to write critical reflections, how to gain the most learning from critical reflections, and provide you with an example of how to write one. So what is a critical reflection? It is a systematic inquiry to improve and deepen our understanding and develop our nursing practice. It is a reflection on an event, thought, or feeling. It is there to gain more clarity on yourself, on others, on nursing, health, or relationships. All critical reflections should include the following elements. The first one is to write a brief description of the event. It should be enough information to capture the essence of what happened so that the reader knows what you're talking about, but shouldn't provide every nitty-gritty detail, maybe one or two paragraphs. Step 2 is the analysis of the event. So that's getting more depth out of the event, looking at the hows, the whys, and trying to gain more information so that more learning can be brought forward. From there, step 3 is creating the action plan with specific strategies to take forward. So all the learning that occurred in the analysis stage is then put into place in a concrete way. So in this presentation, I'll be focusing more on the analysis of the event, which is an area that some students struggle with in order to gain a lot of depth and therefore the learning. So I'll spend a lot of time discussing this in different ways that you can analyze different events in that line of inquiry to gain that depth of learning. So we're first going to start with discussing how you can gain that learning through examining yourself. So you may want to examine in a critical reflection your emotions in a particular situation, your thoughts, your strengths, or your areas of challenge. So if we're to look at your emotions, if you were angry, maybe in a situation, looking at the origin of it. Maybe is there a past experience that may have caused you to act that way? What does that emotion feel like in your body so that you can recognize it next time if it were to arise again? Your thoughts, that's examining the origin of your thoughts, the validity of them. Are there any biases and assumptions that you're basing those thoughts on? Your strengths. So what are your strengths and where do they come from? And how is that strength beneficial? You may also want to examine areas of challenge. Maybe you're struggling with, doing a comprehensive head-to-toe assessment. So why is that? What's contributing to that area of challenge so that you can move forward and grow from it? And how does that area of challenge impact yourself, others, and patient care? And all that will help us develop our self-awareness and ourselves as professionals. And now looking at gaining more clarity on others. And we do that by examining and learning about other people's perspectives. So where was that patient coming from when they said or did that? We may also want to explore certain things like, what is it like to be a family member of that patient? Or what does it mean to be vulnerable as a patient? We may also, to understand their perspective, want to look at what spiritual and cultural beliefs may be impacting their perspective and thus their health. So this will help us develop our empathy, ability to relate and understand others and their experiences. So now looking at how reflections can provide more understanding and clarity on nursing, health, and relationships. So we may want to look at what is it like to be a nurse? What are the challenges and triumphs? We may want to examine certain nursing concepts like trust, health education and promotion, dignity, empathy and active listening or caring. Or you may want to explore a particular example we saw in practice of conflict, collaboration, or teamwork, and looking at its impact on patient care and the healthcare team. By examining these concepts, it helps develop us as nurses and develops our knowledge, attitude, and skills. So I'm going to provide you with an example of how to do a critical reflection, taking you through the 3 steps. Step 1 being the description of the event, step 2 being the analysis of the event, and step 3 being that action plan. So starting with step 1 is the description of the event. So in brief, So the situation is a patient is near the end of life and he says, I can't take it anymore. I, as a nurse, reply, I'll be right back with your medication, leaving quickly. So as I step back from this situation and I go to write a reflection, I examine these things. What assumptions impacted my response? Did I assume he meant he was in pain when he said he can't take it anymore? So was I really hearing what he was saying? And so why didn't I hear him? Because I was rushed and focused on my task at hand. And how did that feel in my body so that I can recognize it next time? Maybe I feel it in my shoulders and my neck, then the stress is arising. So the next time I can recognize when I have those sensations that stress is impacting me. I also want to look at, was there maybe some discomfort I had about talking about death? But that's not about me. It shouldn't be about me. If his need is to talk about, his feelings, then my feelings shouldn't override his. I also need to look at, am I potentially scared to talk about death? And if so, why? Is there any past experiences that are impacting me? And what are they? And then I also need to look at his perspective. So that empathy and perspective taking. How might that have been for the patient when he was dismissed like that from my response? He may have felt scared. He may have felt a break in trust. He may have felt sad and alone. So the breaking of the trust probably damaged the therapeutic relationship because he was vulnerable in that moment. It took courage to share that with me, and I essentially shot him down by responding the way I did. So I may also want to explore why he feels that way, and that would be another way to gain more depth into his perspective. So then I create my step 3, the action plan with concrete strategies. So I need to be more present and mindful so I can listen deeply to clients. So when I'm feeling stress, I feel those sensations in my body. I can take some deep breaths and feel grounded so that I can respond effectively to my clients. Another action to take to go forward is to work through my discomfort speaking about death. So by journaling, maybe talking to others, maybe going to a counselor, but working through that so I can separate my experience from my patient's experiences. And lastly, another action to go forward is next time if this were to arise, I'll pause, maybe ask some clarification questions to gain more understanding of where he's coming from. What do you mean? Or can you elaborate on that? But slowing down, maybe sitting on a chair and being ready to listen are ways that I can improve. Without reflection, we go blindly on our way, creating more unintended consequences and failing to achieve anything useful. And that is the reason why we do critical reflections. Here's my reference. Thank you.